Hey, it's Ham Nation time, and we have got a huge show for you. Gordon is going to teach us all about teaching ham radio and becoming an instructor. We're going to go over to Italy and visit Begali Keys. You're going to love this segment. Dale is here with a couple of great videos, and Amanda has the chat room. Of course, we've got Newsline and Dr. T with the solar weather, and we're going to wish a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and Ham a happy birthday. Find out who it is next on Ham Nation.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation. And by LDG Electronics. LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art automatic antenna tuners and related products for every amateur need. Visit ldgelectronics.com to learn more.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 429 for November 20th, 2019, a visit to Begali. Hey, it's Wednesday night. If you're watching live, it's Wednesday night. If you're not watching live, well, I don't know. But either way, it's Ham Nation time. And tonight, Bob Heil, the head cheese, is gone, so the rest of the rats are running the asylum. The usual cast of unindicted co-conspirators. We've got George, we've got Gordon, we'll have Dale tonight, we've got Amanda, and we have some special guests as well that we're going to talk to. But first, let's head up to Jackson, Mississippi, and see what George has got going on. How you doing up there, Chief?
I'm doing pretty good, Don. Getting ready to go to a transmitter site in the morning and start cutting on transmission line and doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Transmission line, Gordo, you know, stuff that big around.
Big
so, yep. Been looking for, some good weather to go over there and do that because it's in the middle of a cow pasture. So
yeah.
But that's the way it goes here. We've got, as you can see, we got Jim here. I know you'll introduce him in just a moment, but we're going to have him tonight on Smoke and Solder because he's got something real interesting to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Marra N5 Hotel Zulu from Begali Keys. Welcome to the show, Jim. How are you tonight?
Hey, thank you very much. It's good to be with everybody.
Good. I can't wait to hear what's going on with Begali Keys. We'll get back to you here in just a second, but let's head out to the left coast and see what Gordon West has got going. And Gordon has short shots among other things. So go ahead and jump right on into it, Gordon.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Hi to the chat room, and hi to those not necessarily watching on a Wednesday night. But Gordo here, WB6NOA. You know, a lot of folks over the past few weeks have sent me emails saying, maybe we ought to start teaching classes in our ham club. So here's a little primer on how to consider teaching a class and a big primer on what happens when the day before the class, they call up saying, I'm sorry, your classroom is no longer available. Well, let's take a look. Here we go. Teaching ham radio, 2-day license class. No, don't believe it. It's 2 days when they read that, but it's home study ahead of time to get them up to speed for a 2-day class to sort of finalize all that they've been studying. So we encourage all of you that if you're looking to teach a class, you might come up with a brochure like that. Not really false advertising, but read carefully. And it says that homework is a classic part of teaching a ham radio class. Now, for instructors, we need more. Both the American Radio Relay League and the W5YI group both have excellent instructor programs. Yes, you can be a member of both, and all you need to do to join the W5YI and Gordo team is haminstructor, singular.com. HamInstructor.com, and you'll be set to get the instructor books for technician or general or extra, as well as audio, all sorts of neat things for instructors. And we encourage instructors to always go to a nice classroom that you can depend on, one that someone is not going to call you up the day before saying, "Oop, I'm sorry, it's no longer available." Here's a great classroom, and notice that when the students come in, they've got stuff on the table to make them sort of feel like they're wanted, not just a blank table. And what really pays off is when you get those students stuff to look at. And every ham has stuff, but it's a big deal to get all this stuff into the classroom. So if you have a classroom that is secure for a couple of days, then you can leave your stuff out. But if it's not clear for a couple of days, then you got to put out the stuff and then retract it and then put it out again. Because once you put the stuff out, before the class, the very first class session begins, you're going to see that students are coming up and they're looking at it. They love to look at this stuff. This takes the pressure off of you, the Elmer or instructor, that now you can get a break as they're looking at the stuff and get excited about your teaching of ham radio. And several times a year, we do instructor academies. And tonight, all of you will be eligible to get the free instructor guide. Just go to HamInstructor, all one word, .com, and get signed up. No one's going to call you on the phone, no crank calls, and you'll be set to be able to download and see a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about. So here I am doing a class up at Pacificon, and we've got Dan and Adrian, star instructors, and a lot. Oh, there's Randy in the. We got a whole bunch of them there. I got a phone call saying, the class you're going to offer in a couple of days, the classroom is no longer available. Oh my God, I have like 35 students. Where do you put 35 students when your classroom run by a group is no longer available? Well, always the backyard. Oh my gosh, the backyard. First of all, in Southern California, it does get cold here. This was the temperature on our setup day, 43 degrees. Yeah, those of you on the East Coast, no big deal. But for an outside classroom in our backyard, it was a big deal. So we had to light a little campfire to keep the students warm. And we brought in tables. But, look at those tables. Well, all the firewood in the background, of course, but the tables look just a little bleak. So a little tablecloth makes all the difference in the world, because when those students hit your backyard or wherever you're teaching the class, you want them to come in and feel good. And they will when they can sit down at their own spot and they've got stuff to read. A lot of materials from the manufacturers. We tell you how to do it with our HamInstructor.com newsletters. And ICOM America, Yaesu, Kenwood, Alinco, BioInno batteries. All of these groups are more than happy to support you as an instructor with stuff, handout stuff, because they know that you're going to be turning out students that maybe they can sell radios and accessories to. Well, after about 10 o'clock in the morning in our backyard, oh my God, teach a class in your backyard? Will that work? Well, we have shade, so no one's going to get a sunburn, and it looks like it's shorts weather. So the class went very well. You get in there nice and close, and notice that we have the tables turned to the end. That way we can get twice as many students in. A little trick. There's Susie. She's getting all set because we had coffee there rolling for them. We had Kool-Aid. We have donuts, and we did a lunch run. So, yeah, that pays off. But again, with every class, whether you're teaching it in your classroom or in your backyard or out in the boondocks, you got to have stuff, because students want to see a capacitor. If you're going to talk about a capacitor, look at that one bottom center. If you're going to talk about a coil, they want to see a coil. Live stuff, not just PowerPoint or you just yakking. And they want live radios. what we did is we hooked up many of these radios to the antennas we had up on the roof, and we could even, with a rotator that you see it right there, next to the grab-and-go bag, we're even able to turn the beam. They were fascinated just by turning the beam and hearing signals go in and out as you came up on nulls. In our books for instructors, we give you all of the demos, all the fun ones that I've come up with that I know really work well. And this is from the MIMS book, of which George talked about last week, and is just a fabulous guide for coming up with great ways to demonstrate different stuff. Rather than talk about the flow of electrons, you can actually show them with a little bit of water and a bulb. Well, you get the idea. It really makes it fun. Bottom right, 3 demo tables out front with stuff on them. And notice that the other tables, you can get students 3 on one side, 2 on the other. They're not crowded, and you can get twice as many students by simply turning the tables end to end so that you can pack the room. We need more kids. In fact, we've received several emails, and we're going to be placing emphasis on ways to get more kids involved. But certainly, the Boy Scout Radio Merit Badge is a great way to go. And did you know that many of the Boy Scout Radio Merit Badge requirements fall right into place with technician class study? So we give you the conversion between what the Radio Merit Badge has as a requirement and where they can find them in a Gordo technician class book, all the way down to the page number, the chapter number, and the track in the audio CDs. And we encourage you that whenever you're doing anything, make it live. We had a bad microphone cord. No problem. One of the students, great at soldering, says, "Oh, I can show you." And everybody gathered around, and, something as simple as soldering, no big deal. But it was a big deal. They really got a thrill out of watching that. And, of course, live demos. Here we're showing the flow of electrons. We're showing resistance by that light bulb down there at the bottom of the screen getting up there. And that's Garlic Mike, who has always been a great assistance to our Ham Nation podcast. He's been a net control operator, and he's still out there in Radio Land, but he got a big kick out of lighting the light bulb. But probably the most fun is the glowing pickle. And this one, you got to be a little cautious of. Notice I have my 50-amp fuses there to ensure that 110 volts at 50, well, you get the idea. But the glowing pickle with 110 volts on those 2 bolts sticking up has salt, and sodium is salt. And sodium, when heated, glows yellow. And it's a great way to show them that electricity can flow in a semiconductor, and that is a good old pickle. And as we get it up to speed, there's Dave Bell, Silent Key, known for all his great productions of amateur radio licensing and amateur radio information books. Anyway, he made it happen by putting those 2 pickles up to good use. So I encourage all of you, if you get an opportunity, sign up at haminstructor.com so you can end up with general class or technician class instructor guides, or the homework. And the homework, by the way, lets those students have a chance ahead of time to fill out stuff they find in their book. So when they hit the classroom, they've got a book that's been well earmarked, and you know that they've been studying ahead of time. So I encourage all of you, think about teaching ham radio. You've got your script right there. That is the instructor guides that you can get from me, haminstructor.com. Sign up and put in your own password when they give you the word to do so. And then you'll be able to download a lot of the information, including newsletters, as well as how to teach classes. So whether you're teaching technician, general, or extra class, there it is. We'll get you signed up right there at haminstructor.com. So all of you, think about becoming a ham radio instructor. And one of our great assistants in keeping these classes rolling has been ICOM America with the band charts and with the ICOM America grid charts, their catalogs. So let's take a look and see that all that ICOM America has for ham radio operators.
Wish it, wrap it, gift it. Step up your gift-giving game this year and get your favorite ham, the transceiver, at the top of their list. ICOM offers a variety of high-performance and innovative products. Make the most of this holiday season with one of these ICOM rigs today. 'Tis the season to give your favorite ham the SDR they really want, the IC7610. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR radio. RF direct sampling, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. Ham for the holidays. The IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. The transceiver at the top of every ham's wish list this holiday season is the IC9700. Keep your competitive contesting edge with faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. ICOM's IC9700 is the pinnacle of perfection. 4.3-inch color touchscreen TFT LCD, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation in satellite mode. Real-time, high-speed spectrum scope, and waterfall display. SD memory card slot for voice recording and playback. Support for CW, AM, FM, single sideband, RIDI, and D-Star DV and DD modes. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on all these great ICOM radios. And, you know, ICOM enjoys being radioactive. And in addition to the various contests and events that they support, ICOM is a proud supporter of Youngsters on the Air, or YOTA. December is Region 1 and Region 2 YOTA activation. ICOM encourages you to work one or all of the YOTA stations in Region 1 and Region 2 and help create some excitement in the hobby for these new hams. ICOM also invites you to enter in their weekly drawings for some great swag prizes like T-shirts and hats. And when you register, you'll automatically be entered in the grand prize drawing for a new radio each month. And we've got a winner for November now. It is Alan Cox, AB8SA from Warren, Michigan. Congratulations, Alan. You're going to enjoy that ICOM IC2730A rig, VHF, UHF, dual band, dual watch, analog transceiver. ICOM will be in touch with you, and you'll be on the air in no time. For December, though, don't fear, we've got another great prize coming up, especially from Santa. It's going to be the ICOM ID51A Plus 2 dual band, dual watch D-Star portable. It's got built-in GPS receiver, independent AM/FM broadcast receiver, DV and FM repeater search function, and DV fast data mode. There's extended D-Star coverage with terminal mode and access point mode, a micro SD card slot for voice and data storage, and a free downloadable RS-MS1A Android app for text messaging, sending and receiving pictures, and the DR function. So you want to register and maybe win a great swag package and possibly a radio? Then go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this in each episode and register to win. Sign up. Good luck. And don't forget to follow ICOM America, Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And tonight for Smoke and Solder, we've got a special guest here, Jim Marra N5HZ, from just a little south of me here, not too far south. Jim, I guess you must have got licensed before the no-code days, just based on what I'm hearing here.
It was 1952. It was 5 words a minute. It was
5 words a minute.
Yeah, the novice class. Yes.
So you still enjoy CW?
I still like it. I've tried all the rest, and I like CW, and I like CW Ops, although they go a little fast for me. And contesting a little, and a little bit of DX. But I have other hobbies too, so I'm not totally bound to the station, but I love it.
Well, that's great. And I understand you know a little bit about Begali Keys.
Begali Keys, yes. Lynn and I planned a trip to northern Italy, and our first stop was Lake Garda, which we found was 30 minutes from the Begali Factory. So I could not turn down an opportunity to do this, and ham radio really gave me a bonus place to go. So thanks to Tom Kelly, he arranged my visit, and we went to the factory, and when we pulled up, it was not overly impressive on the outside for security reasons. And I have a whole bunch of slides that I can show from this point on. The master machinist, Piero Begali, is the originator of a large assortment of keys. They're very unique, and they're actually pretty easy to operate. As a testimony to his skill, HamNationVideos in 2019 gave him the Technical Achievement Award, which I thought was quite an honor for him. The factory is located in northern Italy in an area that is called the cradle of Italian industry. The Beretta factory that makes guns originated there 500 years ago and still is in business all over the world. Milan, which is a fashion capital, along with 2 other cities, New York and Paris, is located near there. There's also some famous wines, particularly Pinot Noir and a special Francia Certo wine that they like to drink. As I said, the outside was unimpressive, but the inside was really interesting. This picture shows Piero and his daughter, Bruna, and inside is a collection of hobbies, work, family life, social life, food, and of course, wine. If you look behind the picture, there's these large machines, which I didn't really expect. On the right side in the corner is a filing cabinet, and the filing cabinet is filled with precise drawings that Mr. Begali made for each product that he produces. This is a closer look at some of the equipment. It's definitely industrial grade. When a drill starts working, nothing moves but the drill. And you can see the components of drills on the right side. And in the center is their new computer-driven machine. Mr. Begali calibrates everything regularly to assure consistency. I have a nice film of this, but we're not going to show it tonight. But he is calibrating something, if I translate it correctly, is 5/1000ths of a millimeter. So it's very precise. They have a full inventory. If you see, there are drawers and bins full of equipment, so that parts and equipment that they can readily put together and assure prompt delivery of orders. Bruna explained the parts of the key to me using a plastic model. the real models have really heavy bases. They work with levers that roll on bearings. The magnets replace springs, and it's so precise that the magnets have to match each other. There are gold contacts. The polish finish varies from many models. In fact, they probably, including polish finishes, maybe make 30 to 40 different models. These are some models on display here. I was surprised that the automatic key is still very popular. That's on the right. It's called the Intrepid. The base actually weighs 6 pounds, and they ship to many countries. The biggest buyers are the United States, Japan, and Great Britain. These are some more models getting ready for shipment. My two favorites keys were the sculpture on the left, which has more of an industrial kind of look, and then the one on the right, the signature. It has many finishes, but this particular finish, I really like the flashiness of it, I guess. You know, that 60% of the art of the world is in Italy, and I think Mr. Begali probably adds to that total. Our ham radio hobby is alive and well also in the factory. Mr. Begali has 2 stations. This is one of them. Notice there's no keyboard and no computer. The Intrepid key is sitting there, which I think is his favorite. So he was also an active DXer, but probably doesn't do so much today. Mr. Begali, the man, has many interests. He's an avid reader and has a book collection of 10,000 books, I'm told. He collects rare books. One of them I'll show you a little later. He's an author. He wrote a book, Story and Stories of Radio. He loves to experiment and build things. We'll show you something coming along here. He's a skillful linguist. When he spoke Brescia dialect, Lynn and I could not really understand him well. He's also a poem. He likes to write poems and recites poems. So that was kind of interesting. Above all, he's a teacher. He really wants to help people learn what he knows about radio. This is the Marconi book. That's a rare edition. I was a radioman, and ham radio got me into the Naval Reserves at advanced grade because I could copy 13 words a minute. And if you can see on this book on the right side, there are 5-letter code groups that represent words and phrases. While I was in the Naval Reserve, my teachers used that same system, 5-letter code groups, to boost my speed up. Mr. Begali showed us a spark gap transmitter and receiver that he made. The transmitter in his right hand is a spark thing that you would light a fireplace with or a barbecue pit, and it has antennas on it. And the receiver is sitting on the table. It has a diode and an LED, and as he would click the sparks, the LED would light. And like everything else, he measures everything. And on the right is a measurement of the sound or the EMF. I wasn't really sure what he measured. What does a master machinist do when he wants to build something? He's going to build radios for his ham radio hobby, but he built this little steam engine. It has a little capsule in there with fluid, and he lights it with a cigarette lighter, and it expands and contracts due to volume changes. And he showed it to Lynn and explained it to Lynn, and he was very patient with her. His book, called The Story and Stories of Radio, has not been published in English. I think it would be a good radio history book or handbook, but they just haven't translated it yet, and I wish they would. We had so much hospitality and ham radio fellowship with the Begalis. On the left is Bruna showing a bottle of wine that comes from the local area. A dining room table was set up outside of the factory. You can see the people. There's Mr. Begali, myself, Lynn, and the green shirt is Fabrizio. He was with us all day. What a gentleman, and good ham radio operator, good CW operator. Also seated is Maria Grazia, Piero's wife. We had a lot of laughter, a lot of food, and a lot of wine. We were invited over there because the drinking kind of started like at 10:30, and I'm not used to drinking wine at 10:30. So they brought us out for an aperitivo, which in Italy is like a couple of kinds of cheese, some bread, maybe some meats, and we assumed it was lunch, and we were very happy to have it. But what happened was Fabrizio said, okay, now we're going to lunch. So off we went to this restaurant, and in the restaurant were all industrial workers. And the meal of the day was absolutely delicious. So then after the meal, Fabrizio said, I'm going home to my wife, Anna, and we're going to make dinner for you and bring it to the factory. But in the meantime, I'm going to drive you home, and you take a siesta, and someone will come back and get you. So I suspect everybody but his wife took a siesta. And we did return, and we had a wonderful meal. And this is a period of time later in the evening where we're all sitting around the table, very content and having had a few glasses of wine. Mr. Begali quoted some poetry that he wrote and spoke in his Brescia dialect. Down at the end of the table on the right was Anna, who made the dinner, and Fabrizio, who's next to her in the green shirt. The man next to Fabrizio is Bruna's husband. So we had a very nice evening there. And in conclusion, Lynn and I had a really, really exciting visit that began at 10:30 in the morning and ended at midnight. We actually I think I got to sleep around 1 o'clock because I was so excited. We discovered a man who had great talent, lives simply and happily with his family, friends, and his profession. He's an artisan who just happens to make perfect telegraph keys. The main question I got when I returned home was, what'd you get? What'd you get? Well, I didn't really buy anything right there. We were traveling to 6 other cities, and those keys are heavy to put in your suitcase. So I waited till I got home, and the key arrived. This is my sculpture key sitting at my radio station. On the right is the package it came in, and on the left is Mr. Begali's signature thing. He has there are Begali hands at every stage of production and mailing and everything. So I think that the Begali key I think of the Begali key as a gift to myself. There's a little bit of sticker shock, but that disappears pretty fast. So that's my story. I had to make slides and present it because it was so much fun. There was so much ham radio fellowship with it, and I hope everybody enjoys hearing the story.
Wow, that is really interesting, Jim, and great to get a look inside. And, you know, it's ham radio, and when you first started out there mentioning this is the factory, there's also a lot of hobby stuff in here and family stuff. You know, that just kind of hits home there because, one building there, and he's got all these different things that he can go do all at once there. And I assume now, because I've heard a lot of stations on the air, Italy's doing pretty well with ham radio these days still, aren't they?
I think so. For example, Fabrizio and his wife Anna are both high-speed telegraphers. They didn't really boast about it or anything, but I suspect they're really into it. I know some of them went to Bulgaria for the high-speed contests, and in 2014, I think Anna and Fabrizio won awards. So it's a great cult kind of thing, hobby. It's good for your mind, and it helps your acuity for sound, and it's just very enjoyable. There's a lot of physiologic things that are good, and a lot of ham radio hobby things that are good. It takes you a long way. It took me to the Begali Factory.
Wow. And that's another thing about this hobby. You know, anywhere you go in the world, pretty much, if you're a ham, you've got a friend there. And, that's something I've heard way before I was ever a ham. Someone told me that. Turns out it is true. Gordo, have you got some questions for Jim?
Oh, yeah. Jim, I want to thank you for that great tour. And Jim, when the FCC took away the code test requirement, we have never had more people get my audio code courses to learn the code. So believe me, CW, the essential language for ham radio, is still going very strong, Jim. And Begali Keys, wow, we see him every year at Dayton and Hamvention and all of the other ham fests. He really has a fun time working the crowd, not selling, just meeting friends like you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for getting a program going for Morse code. I agree with you. It's a wonderful thing.
Wow, that's great. And we're so happy that you could be with us tonight, Jim. And, it was just a great presentation there, and I learned a lot. I'm not a big CW guy, but it seems to me that if you've got a good filling key there, you're probably ahead of the curve.
Well, thank you. I agree. It's remotivated me because I had a long lapse in away from ham radio, and getting this key has really helped me want to get back and do it again and listen. And it's very easy to use. As an afterthought, I had a plumbing problem today, and my plumber walked in and said, "What are you doing with that thing?" I said, "It's a key." I said, "Why don't you try it?" He was able to count the dits correctly and the DAWs correctly after one or two times. So he's a ham radio operator too. But I'm going to get him an RCW class.
Oh, that is great. And many hams learn the CW not only by ear and by sight, but also by, that's right, by lights. So you never know. A simple key, and we upgrade to a Begali. Back to you, Jim.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight. It's been fun. The trip was fun. We hit 7 other cities, but the bonus city was going to the Begali Factory for me, and I wouldn't have done that without ham radio.
Wow.
Well, thanks again, Jim. It was really great to see you. And I don't know, maybe we'll run across you at a Hamfest or something here in the not too distant future, because we're not terribly far apart here. Well, now I am going to toss it over to Don, and because there's a lot more to go in the show tonight.
Yeah, Jim is down by me. He's over in the New Orleans area. So, Jim, nice to have you on the show tonight. Fascinating stuff. And
thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Much.
You're more than welcome.
I think you sat with us in one of our special events.
I did over at the boat. Yeah, absolutely, at the PT boat, and look forward to doing that again real soon.
I saw George at the Slidell special symposium that was there not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jim, yeah, great. Thanks for being here tonight, and again, a fascinating segment. And right now, we want to tell you a little bit about LDG Electronics, switching from keys to antenna tuners. This episode of Ham Nation brought to you by LDG Electronics. And just like Begali, LDG is a family-ran and owned operation. And they make state-of-the-art automatic antenna tuners for every amateur need, from QRP to QRO, fixed stations, portable and remote. There's an LDG tuner that will match your radio to your antenna, and they use their lightning-fast proprietary tuning algorithms. Check out the LDG AT1000 Pro 2. That is the flagship. It's made for high-power hams. It'll handle 1,000-watt sideband, 500 watts FM and digital, tuned from 1.8 to 54 megahertz continuously. Match Yagis, dipoles, inverted V slopers, virtually any coax-fed antenna, from 6 to 1,000 ohms impedance. Tuning time initially under 10 seconds. Once that is in memory tuning is under 0.2 seconds, under 0.2 of a second. Large, easy-to-read bar graph watt meter, 2 selectable ranges, dual antenna switch, 2,000 memories for each position. And LDG, as I said, family-owned and operated company. They are dedicated, much like Begali, to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. And their focus is on anticipating and meeting your needs and providing you with world-class support that is only a phone call or an email away. And all LDG tuners carry a full 2-year warranty, and that's fully transferable. If you ever sell or give away your LDG tuner, the remainder of the warranty goes with it. Free return shipping, too, on all your warranty repairs. And all LDG products, including ballads and cables, are available for purchase through select resellers. So check out which automatic antenna tuner is right for you. Go to ldgelectronics.com to learn more. ldgelectronics.com. And, of course, we thank LDG Electronics for their support of Ham Nation. And we touched on this, George did just a minute ago. Amateur radio, such an amazing hobby. No telling where it'll take you or who you'll run into. And friend of the show, good friend of Bob Heil, is, of course, Joe Walsh, world-renowned musician in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Eagles. Today is Joe Walsh's birthday, WB6ACU. Happy birthday, Joe Walsh, 72 today. And if Bob was here, he'd play his organ, I'm sure. But let's all go on the Facebook page or go to QRZ and see if he can send Joe Walsh, WB6ACU, a birthday greeting. I got on his Facebook page today and did that. So very cool. Happy birthday, Joe. But now let's get into the news of the week, and we'll have solar update from Dr. T from Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2194, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. Our top story this week looks at Australia's bushfires. As disaster overwhelms the nation on a deadly scale, Ham step in for support.
As bushfires consume more than 4,000 square miles in New South Wales alone, officials in Australia were bracing for the latest rash of blazes that they said could lead to the most dangerous bushfire week in the nation's history. New South Wales called a state of emergency, and additional fires flared in West Australia and Queensland. Members of the Wireless Institute Civil Emergency Network, or WICEN, were called to harness their radio skills in the face of overwhelming catastrophe. Hams were deployed to provide logistical support for the Rural Fire Service, along with community evacuation and welfare support. Hams sent to the Rural Fire Service Command Centre in northern VK2 had begun rotations operating the RFS's own radio system. Members of WICEN's parent body, the Volunteer Rescue Association, were staffing the bushfire information line in Sydney, likely alongside WICEN members. Hams were also functioning as scribes for firefighting incident management teams. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Meanwhile, amateurs in India mobilized to help emergency operations as a cyclone overtook the coast.
As parts of Bangladesh and the eastern Indian state of Odisha and West Bengal were slammed by Cyclone Bulbul on November 10th, a team of amateurs from the West Bengal Radio Club set up emergency operations in the largest and most populated district of West Bengal. From there, they connected with police, the state disaster management team, and the National Disaster Response Force. Outside, people throughout the region were evacuated under the threat of the deadly storm's wind of as much as 120 kilometers per hour or 75 miles per hour. And Barish Nagbisvos VU2 JFA, the club's founder, reported on their Facebook page that the control room operators established connections with state officials and mobile stations were reporting their observations in and keeping an eye on the relief camps. Authorities credited lower death tolls to the presence of additional coastal shelters and more efficient evacuations. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meachin, ZL2BHF.
The founder of the HamSci research team has won a prestigious National Science Foundation grant.
Congratulations to HamSci founder Nathaniel Frisell, W2NAF, who has been given a $1.3 million National Science Foundation grant to work with amateur radio stations studying the effects of weather in the ionosphere. He is the founder of HamSci, also known as the Ham Radio Science Citizens Investigation Initiative, which is an international citizen science space physics research collective. His research project, which will take 3 years, is known as DASI, for Distributed Arrays of Small Instruments. Nathaniel will work with a number of universities and amateur radio operators staffing a network of personal space weather stations. He told the ARRL that he believed his receipt of the grant shows that the National Science Foundation takes amateur radio's contribution to science seriously. Meanwhile, Nathaniel recently moved on to the University of Scranton as a physics and electrical engineering professor after being on the faculty of the New Jersey Institute of Technology. He is already planning to establish a ham radio club on the Scranton campus and hopes the club's work will become part of the effort covered by the grant. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Heather Emby, KB3TZD.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Graham Kemp, VK4BB, Jim Meachin, ZL2BHF, Heather Emby, KB3TZD, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
A lone sunspot dims, returning us to a spotless sun, and a solar storm is on its way. How will these things affect you? Those stories and more in the news this week. This forecast sponsored in part by Eric Johansson. Check him out at Instagram.com/Scubist. Just as space weather begins to worsen for amateur radio operators and emergency responders, it picks up for aurora photographers. As we switch to our front side sun, you can see that bright region. That is a solar cycle 25 sunspot. That's region 2752. And you can watch it kind of fizzle and fade out as it rotates across the disk. You know, these new cycle sunspots, they don't last very long yet, but they're getting stronger. But just above that region, you can see that decent sized coronal hole. That is going to be bringing some fast solar wind here in the next day or two, and it could bring aurora down to mid-latitudes. We have gotten solar storm conditions from this particular coronal hole in the past couple months, so we could easily get back up to storm levels and get some gorgeous aurora. Now, as we switch to our far side sun, this is the view of the sun from stereo, which is kind of looking at the sun from the side. You can see that bright region 2752 as it disappears behind stereo's west limb, but behind it, the sun is completely spotless. Now, we do have another coronal hole that's going to be rotating into Earth view here in about 3 or 4 days, and that region could bring us another solar storm in about 10 days, a little bit more than a week, I should say. So we do have some hope for aurora photographers to be able to get some more aurora shots, but amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, it looks like the sun's going to stay pretty low in terms of solar flux, so your radio propagation is going to tank yet again. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating the fast solar wind from that coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth strike zone basically about now. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting major storm conditions. As a matter of fact, up to about a 60% chance of a major storm. And this should last over the next couple days before things begin to calm down a bit. Now, mid-latitudes, we're only expecting active conditions, but we have up to about a 25% chance of a minor storm. And this, the fast wind from this coronal hole has brought us up to storm levels before, so it wouldn't surprise me if we do get some aurora clear down to mid-latitude. So your aurora photographers definitely keep on your toes, especially because we could get some sporadic conditions easily over the next couple days, and then in through the weekend, things should be settling down. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to big solar flares. We have a spotless sun right now, so we have no risk for big radio blackouts or anything like that, so GPS users should be very happy. However, you can see the solar flux is beginning to tank. We're going to be moving out of marginal range at the low 70s down into the 60s, so expect poor radio propagation on Earth's day side here as we move in through the weekend and easily into next week as well. Now, also, because we are at solar minimum, we do have a cosmic ray flux that's a bit more intense than it normally would be. So you frequent flyers, and this does include aircrew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high latitudes and high altitudes, you are in the marginal range for radiation dose. And this does include prenatal passengers, so please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So the space weather this week is definitely looking up for aurora photographers. We have a coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth's strike zone, and it's sending us some fast solar wind. In fact, we're beginning to see the impact of that fast solar wind now. So aurora photographers, definitely keep your batteries charged, because this will be your best chance to catch some aurora, maybe even down to mid-latitudes for probably the next 3 weeks, maybe even longer. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, the sole sunspot on the Earth-facing sun has dimmed, and unfortunately, along with it, so has the solar flux. We are now moving back into poor radio propagation on Earth's day side and will continue to stay like that easily through this next week. The only good news is GPS users, your day side reception should be fantastic, and as long as you stay away from the dawn dust terminators and away from aurora, your reception will continue to be top-notch. I'm Tamitha Skov. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Dr. T. We are so blessed to have her on our team. So make sure that you follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Skov and check out spaceweatherwoman.com as well. Just the information that she puts out there is just incredible. And she's constantly putting new stuff out on Twitter. So make sure you send her a follow. She's a huge part of what we do here on Ham Nation, and for amateurs all over the world, actually. And speaking of all over the world, we are being heard all over the world on shortwave tonight. WTWW at 5085 and 12.185, I believe it is. Huge shortwave station, and they carry the Ham Nation audio every Wednesday night live, and we appreciate them. And you can go on there and make a request. It's pretty amazing. So go on there tonight and make a bunch of Joe Walsh requests and Eagles requests in honor of Joe's birthday tonight. I think that'd be a good thing to do. So thanks to Ted Randall and everybody else over there at WTWW, the ownership. They support ham radio a lot, and make sure that you go over to the general coverage portion of your HF radio and check out 5085. I think you'll really enjoy what you do. Of course, Amateur Radio Newsline on there, as well as Ham Nation and a whole bunch of other great ham radio programming, plus some really good music and disc jockeys as well. So WTWW at 5085. Thanks, guys. We certainly appreciate you. Hey, Dale is back, and he's got a new set of videos for us. So, Dale, what's on with Show and Tell tonight, my friend?
Oh, we've got some good videos, Don. Glad to be here again, and we've got some outstanding coverage of a very notable ham fest, and then we'll have a video with the Battleship, Iowa. By request, a lot of response to part one of the tour of the comm center there. So we'll have that for you in just a bit. Right now, why don't we jump right in? Visit the Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club Hamfest earlier this month. It was on November 3rd. Our reporters, Dan N9LVS.
Welcome to the Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club Hamfest 2019, which was held November 3rd at the Starlight Club in Kaukauna. This is a new old location for us, as the Hamfest was held at the same location about 20 years ago. The advantage of the Starlight Club is it's halfway between Green Bay and Appleton. The doors opened at 8 o'clock in the morning to a large crowd. This is the largest Hamfest north of Milwaukee. One of the main vendors is Wolf River Coil. Everything from their little coil to a 213-inch telescoping antenna. The RF adapter guy was there as well, with everything from PL259s up to some loop antennas. If it's meant to go from here to there, the RF adapter guy has it. Pat Moretti, KA1RB, Wisconsin section manager, had a very nice ARRL booth. And the Quarter Century Wireless Association had a very nice display right alongside the ARRL. And Nudexa, the Northeastern Wisconsin DX Association, had a nice little display, as well as the YLRL, Young Ladies Relay League. And what's a HamFest without a VE testing session, which was very well attended, with a lot of upgrades and a lot of new hams as well. There's also a lot of cool stuff to see there, like this level 2 amplifier. And if you need tubes, this guy here had boxes of them. There was also a few old oscilloscopes there as well as a tube checker. And if you think HamFests are only for old equipment, check out this Yaesu FT1000MP or this Kenwood TS2000. There was also a high-power tuner there as well as an Ameritron 811H. Match those two up and that would be a great combination. There was also a lot of older equipment there as well, for that ham just starting out. Heathkit, Drake, it's fun to run the old equipment. And last but not least, some of the things you find at a HamFest are stuff like this, a little mini arcade unit. And that's the Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club HamFest 2019. From Kaukauna, Wisconsin, this is Dan N9LVS 73.
Thanks, Dan. We appreciate it. Outstanding coverage again from one of the biggest ham fests in Wisconsin. And next time we'll have another video from Dan. He's going to be interviewing the president of the OMISnet. She'll answer the big question, just what is OMIS? Well, Matt, WA6AJC, has captured an additional tour of the Communications Center aboard the Battleship Iowa. Here's part 2 of that tour.
Battleship Iowa Radio Tech Tour Part 2. Today, we'll continue our tech tour of Facilities Control 1 with our host, Gary, WA6MEM.
In addition to voice communication, the ship relied heavily in those days on teletype. So as we go through the ship, you'll see a variety of different teletype machines. One like this, where we have a keyboard to be able to produce a message, and then 3 separate printers that would be used to print messages that are coming into the ship from a variety of different places. Most of these messages were encrypted, both for voice as well as teletype, and all the encryption equipment would have been located right back in here in an area called FACON 2. It was chock full of all sorts of encryption and decryption equipment used for classified messages. In addition to having all the equipment operating, and that became a big task, right here in the radio room was a complete rack totally devoted to equipment maintenance. At the very top here is a special generator producing teletype type signals of a variety of different weights, in addition to different speeds and baud rates. Next would have been an oscilloscope, which is out for repair right now. A spectrum analyzer for looking at the transmitter performance. Tracking generators for optimizing filters. Audio meters for looking at audio levels and adjust them correctly, and then a signal generator for testing the various receivers in the FACON area here. One of the things that's critical on board the ship is that everything operate from the same time base. All the pieces of equipment here that would use some sort of a frequency performance as a monitoring point would need a constant time base. And this rack, which we've just recently restored, provides that throughout the ship. These 2 oscillators here are crystal controlled oscillators that have 2 ovens to maintain absolute stability. They're also battery backed up, so in case the AC power goes offline, they continue to operate. With these oscillators to generate are 5 megahertz, a 1 megahertz, and a 100 kilohertz signal that then is distributed to all the different pieces of equipment in the ship. Those signals come up here to this patch panel where you can choose either one of these as one is redundant to the other. And then they're routed into these various amplifiers up above here. One is for 5 megahertz, another one's for 1 megahertz, and then the other's for 100 kilohertz. As an example, all of the receivers that we looked at just a few moments ago all use a 5 megahertz signal as a standard reference. That way all the receivers are operating exactly on frequency. The same thing for the transmitters, 2 decks below. This amplifier is routed, the output is routed down to the transmitter room where there are additional distribution amplifiers that go to all 12 of the URT-23 transmitters, as well as the 16 Whiskey 3 UHF radios.
Thanks to the Pacific Battleship Center's Gray Radio Gang and Innovation, Engineering, and Technology Department for the restoration and maintenance of this equipment. In closing, here are a few pictures of the various transmitters which will be covered in a future video. Hope to see you then.
Well, thanks, Matt. We really appreciate you producing these videos from the Communication Center aboard the Battleship Iowa. Toward the end of the video, you heard Matt hinting there'll be a part 3 showing the massive transmitter room down aboard that battleship. Because of the great response we've received from these Battleship Iowa videos so far, we'll make sure to get part 3 on as soon as it's available for our Ham Nation audience. Well, that's a wrap for the 10th annual, or the 10th Ham Nation video segment for 2019 anyway. Keep those videos coming in. We'd like to show your video to our Ham Nation viewers. If you have questions about how to produce a video, what to do here and there, we'd be glad to help. Send us an email. The address is on your screen just below, HamNationVideos@twit.tv. We'll be glad to help you out there. We helped Matt with a few tips, and he took it to heart and went right to work. So you could be next on the video segment. Well, next on Ham Nation tonight, it's Amanda, and she's got a report from the chat room and a lot of other information for you. Live from Canyon City, here's Amanda.
Well, thank you, Dale. We appreciate you being here tonight, and so glad you had some great videos there. And it's amazing how much everybody appreciated the ship and all the radio room. Okay, I didn't have a lot of content tonight, but I did have some questions about CW for everybody. So, Gordo, I'm going to start with you. How, if somebody is interested in learning CW, do they first start going about it? Do you have some helpful hints?
I first encourage anyone thinking about CW is look in their study books. Usually it's near the back. It is on all of mine, about the CW dits and dahs, so they can visualize in their brain how short a dit is and how long a dah is and how long the space is between each letter. Then we encourage them to learn CW by ear, not necessarily by eye or that kind of stuff, but by ear. And then there could be Navy records, there could be the Gordo audio CDs, the League audio CDs. You find the one that you like the best, where you're beginning to learn letters that are forming into words that then become sentences. And then, like, wow, in a week's time, I'm able to decode an antenna is a must. That's a simple CW memorization of about 12 to 15 characters, not the entire alphabet. Now you feel good, and then you go for those more intense characters like the letter L, did it, and so on. So, Amanda, I say first start by looking at the dits and dahs so you know the timing, and then go ahead and start with the ears and learn the code at what we call the Farnsworth method, which is about 10 to 12 words per minute initially, and then we slightly decrease the amount of spaces in between each letter, yet the code CW rate stays the same. Amanda?
All right. Well, thank you, Gordo. Let's go to our other hosts here. Don, do you actively do any CW? I can't remember when you were licensed, if you were a no-code ham or not.
Yeah, I got licensed in 95. I took the test in 94. So 95, I came in as a no-code tech and got up to Tech Plus. I passed the 5-word. I hit a block at about 10. And when the rules changed, I went ahead and upgraded along with the rules and got my extra. But I'll tell you what worked for me. And Gordon's is a great program. The ARRL's is a great program. The Navy is a great program. There was one called Code Quick, and I think it's still out there. Code Quick 2000, I think it's called now. But it teaches the code much like the military does, according to their information. They give you flashcards, so you're seeing it visually. You have CDs, or in my case, back then it was cassette tapes. I think it's probably CDs now, where you're hearing it. And also they encourage you to find a rough material, like, I don't know, I used my jeans, just, on my pant leg, something that has some tactile feel. And when you hear the character, you trace it out with your finger on your pants. So you're getting it 3 ways. You're getting it auditory, you're getting it visually, and you're getting it tactile. And also, they have little mnemonics for each one. For instance, the A, did-ah. The phrase is say ah. And on the flashcard is a cartoon of a doctor in a lab coat with the mirror on his head, and he is standing in front of a giant frog, and he's holding the frog's mouth open, and he's looking inside, and it's say ah. Go to the other end of the yeah, and it works. It works. It puts it in your head. It teaches you like language. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum, to the letter Z. Da did it. It is Zsa Zsa Gabor on roller skates. Zsa Zsa did it. And so now you remember that. I can hear a character, and I still see that damn frog with the doctor peering into him, and I see Zsa Zsa Gabor on roller skates. And there's one for every character and every number and every pro sign, and it works. Code Quick. Just Google it, and you'll find it. My wife works at Goodwill here in town, and I saw the Code Quick audio cassettes in Goodwill a couple of months ago. So it's still out there, and I think you can go online, Code Quick. Just do a search for Code Quick, and you'll find it. It worked for me, and it'll work for you, too. It's good stuff.
Okay, George. Oh, Dale, I'm sorry. Not George. Dale, what about you? Do you dabble in some CW?
Well, I actually liked Morse code back in the day. It was 1956 when I got my novice license. Didn't have too much trouble with the 5 words a minute. And then a year later went on up to the general/conditional test, did the 13. It was not a problem. Did a lot of operating with CW. Didn't have fancy as radios back then as we do now, and actually enjoyed operating CW. I learned it a lot by the sound. I remember, in Boy Scouts or in the 4-H, they'd teach you dot dash and all that kind of stuff, say for A, but I learned the sound, da, did it, and the whole bit. And to me, that just worked. And I, at one point in the early 60s, got up to about 35 words a minute on the ARRL test, and really enjoyed it. But over the years, dropped it, and I must admit I haven't operated any lately. But it's amazing to me that it's like riding a bicycle. I can still sit down and copy a conversation and listen to it. It's just absolutely amazing, because I haven't really touched any practice with it for years. So once you learn it, you're going to have a skill for life there, and it's a great way to communicate. And it's like all the digital modes. It requires less power and shorter or smaller bandwidth, and it's a lot of fun. So I encourage anybody that would like to try it out to learn the sound of those letters and then those words, like Gordo was saying. And by golly, you'll be a CW operator pretty quickly, I think, if you do it that way.
Yeah, and you know what's odd is I heard, and I have not experienced this because I don't really do CW. I learned it, but I really have not really done much of it, if any at all. But I have a friend who is a really, really high-speed CW operator. And Dale's right. You'll start hearing that stuff everywhere. He can hear the clinking of ice in a glass, and he can pick out letters just from the way that the ice cubes are clinking around in the glass. Yeah, and I knew another guy who could carry on a conversation with you sitting in front of you and do 35 words a minute on a bug. On a Viberplex bug at the same time. Yeah, he was a
my
former...
dad was a railroad telegrapher.
Yeah.
And
he was Coast Guard.
He could sit there and listen to that noise from a cigar can and just pick words and talk to you at the same time and be jotting down a message with his other hand. Yeah. I don't know how they do it, but I have to concentrate to get a message. But it is an amazing language.
I'm in awe of
those
guys.
It's actually a language. It's another language. So I think it's overwhelming to a lot of us if we want to learn it later in life. I certainly was overwhelmed by it. I just said, I just want to know it. I don't want to actually have to be able to send it, but I want to be able to hear it. So I got some weird program that I downloaded for free where I was learning how to hear it they would send the code and I would push what letter it was on the keyboard. So
yeah,
kind of like a typing course. Not sure it was the most helpful way, but it helped me. So, and I can't remember.
There are a lot of apps out there too. There are a lot of apps out there too that will help you do that. It will help you learn it. And the website, by the way, for CodeQuick is CQ2K. Very easy. CodeQuick 2000. And there it is. Dr. Jerry Wheeler. Yeah, this guy knows his stuff. So check that out. CQ2K.com. Yeah.
Don, we have a test. All right, this is for Don. Don,
here we go.
The word is dog did it. Dog did it.
That's one of the flashcards, and it's a dog taking a dump on the carpet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's one of the flashcards. Yeah.
So what letter?
D.
D. That's it.
Yeah.
Amanda, go ahead.
That's
well,
funny.
that's easy. That's in my call. So, that's, yeah.
It's in your call or it's in your hobby?
Both.
Nope.
It's in my house, too. You guys should see the hallway out here.
All right, you guys, let's wrap this show up. We'll announce the nets here tonight, and we'll let Don take it away from there. Okay, we've got D-Star on 14 Charlie, DMR on 31012. We do have a 40-meter net tonight. I know Kevin's been absent a few weeks now, but he says, I'm sorry, and I'm there. So he's on 7192. Steve, W7 UDI, is trying to run the net on 3905. Other than that, I don't have anything. Yes, we're having a show next Wednesday. We'll be here live for you all. So with that, Don, back to you.
All right. Well, good. We've had a great show tonight. Very informative. The Begali Key segment was absolutely fascinating. Thanks to Jim for bringing us that, and good stuff also from our videos. And Dale, thanks for getting those together for us. Gordon, always good stuff. Amanda, you're our princess. And Dr. T, we love her as well. So, is that radio, right? Is that
this one's Delta.
That's Delta.
Yeah.
That's Delta.
Hey, Delta.
Hey, Delta. All right. Well, clearly the show's gone to the dogs, and you should have named her Dog Did It. Yeah. Well, see, there you go. All right. And on that happy note, we'll say goodnight, and we'll see you again next week for Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So there you go. And so for the normal cast of characters around here, as I like to refer to them, the unindicted co-conspirators. I'm Don, AE5DW, for everybody else here that works on Ham Nation, including those over in Petaluma, and the people who push the buttons and twist the knobs and sit there and let us do what we do. Victor, you're a great guy. We appreciate you, and thanks, of course, to everybody over there. So we'll see you again next week. So good night, everybody. 7-3 from those of us here at Ham Nation, and happy birthday, Joe Walsh.
Happy birthday, Joe.